Hey guys, what's up? And welcome back to my second game on my journey to National Master. And this is the second qualifier. And if you guys didn't watch the first video, on the first video I mentioned that I was disqualified from the first qualifier because I missed the game. I missed my third game, and then because of that I got disqualified. So I had to wait next month, and this is when I started playing the second qualifier. And this is the first game of that tournament. And this game was against a friend of mine, this David. I know him personally, and we've played against each other together, and I know what he plays against my normal setup. So this was really good to get someone that knew I was a super strong player and someone that I've beaten in the past. So uh, it's psychologically better for me. And in the game, we play exactly what we played against each other last time, which was knight f3, knight f6, and I'm playing my normal setup, and he is playing his normal Tarrasch Defense. And then after bishop e7, knight c3 castles, I decide to take in the center, and this is just standard Tarrasch theory. And the idea here is that black will lose a tempo, so white manages to capture early on d5. So c takes d5 is the move I play. After c takes d5, there follows e takes, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, and now black is basically down a tempo and has an isolated queen's pawn. And so black has some good attacking chances because of the isolated queen pawn formation, and if white manages to trade off some pieces and capture the d5 pawn, then white will be much better. So knowing that, I start off my basic plan of playing a3, which is what we played last time, and last time he allowed me to play b4, and it didn't go really well for him. He has to play bishop e7 and he couldn't get an attack off, and I managed to win the pawn. Basically what happened in this game is he went a5, so preventing my idea of b4, and from here this was a completely new game. I have never played this kind of setup. I know it's a very common setup with this a5. I forget the grandmaster who invented this, but if you guys know, let me know in chat so I can refresh my chess knowledge. And so yeah, from this position, it's a brand new position which I need to think by myself now, and I was thinking of either bishop to f4 or bishop to g5. Now the ideas of bishop to g5 are very clear. It's pin the knight and capture on d. So basically that's what I go for. I don't like bishop f4 as much. I see the ideas of going bishop f4 in combination with knight b5, but since he can go bishop d6, I'm not really sure I want to go down that path. I mean, if I go bishop f4, he goes bishop d6, then I can just exchange bishops, and that's one less piece that I need to worry about, and more progress I've made toward capturing the d pawn. But nevertheless, I think bishop g5 was a bit more aggressive, so I played this line, and sure enough he plays d4, and from this point now my knight's attacked. I have to move the knight, but first and foremost I play bishop takes, queen takes, so I've guaranteed the trade. I've traded bishop for knight, and now I can play this move knight e4, which is really nice, and secure a second trade. You have to move the queen because otherwise you're going to lose the queen, so that's not very viable. So queen e7, knight takes, queen takes, rook c1. So I've gained tons of tempi off of the black pieces, and black has a very serious problem, which is the d pawn being extended and isolated. So queen b6 is natural, defending the pawn. Queen a7 is a bit too passive, I'd say, and I simply develop. I play queen c2, defending my b pawn, and I prepare to play rook f d1. And from there, I have very good chances of capturing the pawn back, so I'm happy. If we go into the endgame, I'm sure to be better. And this is where my opponent played a super strange move. He played bishop to g4, and I knew this was an inaccuracy. I knew it was an accuracy, and I thought, okay, I'm not going to play along the d pawn anymore. That's always an option for me, but I see something better, which is the idea of knight g5. Knight g5 works because usually there's a knight on f6 defending the h7 pawn, but in this case it was traded off, so the king is vulnerable. There isn't really any pieces of blacks defending the king, and so knight g5 comes very naturally, and the only way to defend it is by creating a weakness, which would be g6. It's not a super serious weakness because I also don't have a dark square bishop, so it's a weakness because black doesn't have a dark square bishop, and it's not that big of a deal because I don't have a dark square bishop. If I did though, then it would be way better for me, maybe plus 1.5 maybe, I'm guessing. So yeah, I get really excited at this point since I've created the weakness, and I see here a way to create a second weakness by playing queen e4. The bishop has to move because it's undefended. Once bishop f5 comes to play, then queen h4, threatening checkmate again, and now you have to play h5, which is completely forced. And I knew this to be good, the computer agrees, but there was better. So the correct plan would have been to play knight e4, threatening a fork on f6, threatening both king and bishop, so the bishop has to move and pin. And this move I saw, I just didn't see the follow-up, which was knight f6 check, king g7, and here I thought it wasn't viable because he's attacking both my knight and my queen. But there's the saving move, knight d5, hitting his queen, and if he takes my queen, I take his queen, attacking the rook and his bishop, so I'm winning material there. So queen d8 would be the move, followed by something natural like queen b3. We both move out the way, but he's got a serious weakness on the queen side, in the center, and a slight weakness on the king side. So b7 being a weakness, d4 being a weakness, and the king's dark squares are looking unsafe, unsound. So this would be the best play. Unfortunately, I go for the plan with h5. So from here, this is where it starts to go downhill for me, because I have this plan of playing h3, g4, and forcing black to take the pawn and threaten some kind of checkmate, but unfortunately it just doesn't work. I play h3, which equalizes, and he plays f6, which looks to me like kind of a risky move. It's not the best move. And from here on out, I think I could probably play something like what I played in the game. So knight e4, king g7, and this would be fine if I just played something like knight d6, but unfortunately I miss it and I play g4, which is a mistake. Now, I did see knight d6, okay, to be fair, I did see knight d6. What I didn't like about knight d6 was he had either bishop d7 or c8. Let's just say bishop d7, so the rooks are still joined and connected. From this position, I really couldn't see what to do. I think my b pawn is hanging, and I really couldn't calculate beyond any sort of speculation I had. Like, the computer gives queen e4 here, but I really couldn't calculate this out. I mean, I know queen takes b2 here is bad, because queen takes b2, rook d1, and I'm taking on b7, attacking the bishop, which would be pinned. So that would be good, but what if he does something simple, like, let's say, I think I just found it. Yeah, I think you have to go rook a8, which the engine gives, because you may have ideas of knight takes b7 in the future. Huh. So this was definitely a miss by me. This also threatens the pawn, so Maybe you could just play around the pawn and not go for anything crazy. Maybe that's the best continuation. It seems most natural anyways. So this of course would have been better. This would be more or less plus 0.8, 0.9. And this is minus 0.2. So I've started to let it slip. And why is this such a good thing for black? Basically because after take, he can push g5. His bishop is no longer bad because it can retreat to g6. And he has the open h file for his rooks. So it only has benefits for black. I play queen g3, which is necessary. Bishop g6. Knight c5, trying to make something happen. There's a fork on e6 and also on d7. So there's a double threat here. He has to deal with both of them, so he plays rook fe8, which is logical. Now, neither of the forks exist, and I find a very nice move here, and I'm very proud of finding this move, which is the only move which maintains a +1 advantage, which is queen d6. Why is queen d6 such a good move? Because the queen on b6 is undefended, and if it's undefended, then his knight really can't move. So it's pinned, and there's also the threat of playing knight takes b7, queen takes b7, bishop takes c6, hitting both his rooks and the queen. So that was my idea with this queen d6 move. Just adding another defender to c6 and making some threats. And he plays bishop f7, okay, and this is just a free pawn. I assumed that this was very good for me. Of course, I calculated it out and didn't see any problems with it. I saw rook e6, and I should have played the very simple move which maintains an advantage and trades into an endgame, which is queen c5. I don't play queen c5. I calculated all sorts of lines, like even sacrifice lines, like taking off the rook on c6, and that looked good to me, but I don't know why, but I played something very different. So just to show you the queen c5 line, queen c5, you can't take the knight because I take his knight on c6. If rook takes, queen takes, rook takes, and I'm up in exchange. So that doesn't work. Knight e5 an attempt, but then knight d6 and I'm getting out. So really, there isn't much for him to do. If he tries to do rook b8 here, trying to capture on b2, then I can simply play knight f5 check, and now d4 is falling, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, knight takes d4 is always a move here. That would be two clean pawns and obviously winning there. So unfortunately, the move I play is queen g3, and yes, I just let a full piece vanish off the board. Yep, I lose my knight. He just plays queen takes. I don't know why I do this. It's like I calculate all of these complex lines out and I play the worst move in the one place I couldn't play a bad move. And so yeah, queen takes b7 is played. So this was a big moment in the game for me. I spent a lot of time here, and I was really down on the clock, like 20 minutes, but now it's getting serious, my time pressure. And I have to come up with a plan. Basically, I can go for a passive defense, or I can go for very active, energetic play and try and make something happen. And even though the queen took on b7, I think this sort of benefits me. This is what was going through my mind. Maybe I can still make use of the pin. The knight is still pinned on c6, but it's not just one piece, it's two pieces. So maybe I have a few tempi to develop my rooks. So I play rook c5 with the idea of doubling up. Also, I could look for tactics after I capture on d4 if possible. He goes queen d7. I go rook fc1. And then this move is a move which I'm not really sure is good. It kind of walks into a secondary pin because now the knight still can't move. If the knight moves, well, I simply take, let's just say knight e7, then rook takes, knight takes, maybe ideas of rook to c7, adding pressure. So I go bishop d. I go bishop d5. He plays rook d6, and here I think I'm kind of forced to trade. The engine says bishop e4, but I didn't think going back would be that good. So we trade, and he takes the king, which was a surprise to me. No, it's actually forced. Yeah, it's not a surprise. And I go b4. b4 is very losing, by the way. It's very losing because he has the simple d3 push, and if I take with e, then he takes with the rook, and he's getting in. So just to show what that would look like, even after this exchange, we could play d3 for him. Queen f3 doesn't work because he just pushes the pawn all the way. If I go b5, trying to capture his knight, he just goes d takes e2, and again he's promoting, and there's just no way to stop it. So yeah, also taking the pawn doesn't work because of rook takes d3, something like, well, trying to get the queen in basically and coordinating for a checkmate, but that's the general idea. So he misses it. He doesn't find d3. Instead, he plays rook e6, just going for the pawn. And here, I knew I was a bit better because I found this very nice move b5. And if you go knight e7 here, I have rook takes, knight takes, and I win the queen here. So you can't play this. Instead, he plays rook takes e2, which is a mistake. And it's a mistake that gives me the game again. And I had to find a move here. There's only one move that maintains a +1 advantage. The rest is either stabilized or a bit better for black. So this is a very instructive point here. Very instructive moment here in the game. And the move that should have been played is rook takes c6. Now why take with the rook and not the pawn? Because if we take with the rook, notice that he's kind of forced to take, right? If he doesn't take, then it's just worse for him. And when he does take, I get to take with my b pawn now, and the queen is unable to blockade on c7, which means my pawn is allowed to advance. And basically that's almost probably going to be a queen. So this is my idea. Queen e6, c7. The engine's idea, sorry. My idea was to play b takes. And this was a mistake solely because now his rook can defend on c8 and I have no shot of advancing basically. So queen e7, and here I'm really down on time. I'm down to like my last minutes. I think I've got 10 minutes left on my clock. He has like 25, so it's an expressive difference, and I just play this check out just to get a move on the board. There's no increment because we're playing on the analog clock, so if my time runs out, my time runs out. And so he goes king g7, queen d3, and then rook h8. And this was scary because he's now making some progress. I'm not sure I can push the pawn. I think pushing the pawn would be too greedy of me. So I think that's not possible there. I calculated a lot here, even though I didn't have time. I missed the winning move, which was queen takes d4. So d4 was always hanging, and now would be the time to capitalize and take it. And the reason why is because I really need to stop his pieces from attacking my g4 pawn. Like, it's overextended, and I played the losing move here, king g2, which follows. This wasn't played in the game, by the way, but this would be the winning move. Rook e4, queen g3, queen e6, and then I could say goodnight, because basically he's going to take and win my queen. And his queen is also on the diagonal to stop my pawn, so actually doesn't even need the queen. If I push the pawn, he just takes my queen with his rook on h8, so but king g2 is losing. He misses it and plays queen d6, And here I'm really blitzing out the moves. I play queen g3, just trying to trade off and push my pawn. He doesn't want to trade, which is correct. And again, queen f3 runs into ideas of rook e4, which he misses and plays d3. Now d3 equalizes because I had a singular shot of playing c7 and drawing the game. I missed it because I just have no time. So queen f5 is played, trying to queen trade, and he finds this very nice move. He's threatening everything basically. I can't drop back to f3 with my queen because of tactics, and he's threatening queen h3, and that's very close to winning. It's very scary. So I do end up blundering and playing queen d3. And if you guys want to pause the video and try and find the win here for black, be my guest. I'll wait a few seconds. And the winning move here for black is to play the sacrificial move, rook h2 check. So you can't move the king down because you just hang the queen. If you take, then you also hang the queen. And if you move king to g3, then rook h3 check. Again, if you take the rook, you hang the queen. If you move back down, then just rook takes. Just rook takes. Or queen takes, which is closer to mate even. So yeah, this is exactly what happened in the game. I, after rook h2 check, just took. So I played king takes h2. He took my queen and I resigned. And that was that. It was a very disappointing game. Like, when I played queen f3, I had literally under a minute. So that was the reason why I blundered and started playing poorly in the end. So in my first round I thought I had little time. In this game I actually did have little time. So that was a different experience for me. I'm usually a bit quicker. But yeah, so this was a very frustrating loss for me. But I hope you guys learned something from this. And yeah, stay tuned for the next game. I've already played it. I'm actually playing the third qualifiers now. So I've played all of the second qualifier. I didn't qualify in that one, but let's see if I qualify in this third one. There's a chance. So yeah, guys, that's it. I'll see you guys next game. Bye.